Baby Emmanuel. His parents sit in jail accused of murdering the 7-month-old boy. But as KCAL's Joy Benedict reports, the remains, if they're not found soon, his parents may be released.
Breaking news out of San Bernardino County. Just 12 minutes ago, local media reported that Jake and Rebecca Haro, the parents of missing baby Emmanuel, could soon be released from custody. A shocking twist in a case that has gripped the nation. A child believed to be dead. Parents accused of murder. And now, the possibility they may walk free. Jake and Rebecca Haro were arrested after investigators claimed their stories didn't add up and prosecutors painted a dark picture. That baby Emmanuel never vanished in the hands of strangers, but instead met a tragic fate inside his own home. 4 months, search teams combed fields, rivers, and neighborhoods. Cadaver dogs were deployed. Drones scanned the skies. Yet despite every effort, no remains were ever found. That failure has become the heart of the defense strategy, and tonight, it may be the very reason these parents could walk out of jail. Legal experts say the state's case, without a body, is built on circumstantial evidence, suspicion, behavior, inconsistencies, but no undeniable proof. And in America's justice system, that gap can mean the difference between conviction and freedom. For the community, the idea is devastating. They have prayed, they have mourned, and they have demanded answers. Now, they are left with a haunting reality, a baby gone, parent accused, and whispers that the law may not be strong enough to hold them. And so, the question becomes, if Jake and Rebecca Haro are released, does that mean justice for Emmanuel slips further away? Or could prosecutors still be holding back evidence, waiting for the right moment to strike? This is a story still unfolding, and the nation is watching. And now, that single fact could decide the future of this case. Without a body, without clear forensic proof of how or even if Emmanuel died, prosecutors face an uphill battle. Defense attorneys argue the evidence is built on speculation, not certainty, and in the eyes of the law, that may be enough to open the door for Jake and Rebecca Haro to walk free. And now, that single fact could decide the future of this case. Without a body, without clear forensic proof of how or even if Emmanuel died, prosecutors face an uphill battle. Defense attorneys argue the evidence is built on speculation, not certainty, and in the eyes of the law, that may be enough to open the door for Jake and Rebecca Haro to walk free. But here's a critical problem for prosecutors. To this day, Emmanuel's body has never been found. And in criminal law, that absence is devastating. Without a body, there is no autopsy, no medical examiner's report, no concrete time or cause of death. It leaves prosecutors with only fragments, circumstantial evidence, inconsistencies in statements, and suspicions about what might have happened inside that home. It may paint a troubling picture, but in a courtroom, troubling isn't always enough. California law requires more. Judges at preliminary hearing don't decide guilt or innocence, but they do decide whether a case can move forward. They must be convinced there's probable cause that a crime was committed and that the accused are the ones responsible. Without direct evidence of Emmanuel's death, that threshold becomes much harder to meet. Defense attorneys know this. According to local media, they are already preparing their strategy, hammering away at the weaknesses in the state's case. They will argue that suspicion isn't proof, that the inconsistencies in Rebecca's story don't prove murder, that investigators, despite weeks of searching, have produced no physical evidence tying Jake or Rebecca to their son's death. No weapon, no blood, no body. And it's not just a technicality. History shows that in no-body cases, defense attorneys can and often do succeed in getting charges dismissed or reduced. They'll push the judge to consider whether the state has anything more than a theory. And if the judge agrees, the Haros could walk out of custody, free, even as a cloud of suspicion still hangs over them. For the community, it would be devastating. A baby reported missing, parents accused of murder, and now, the possibility that both could return home, not because they were cleared, but because the law demands stronger evidence. And if that happens, one haunting question remains. With Emmanuel still missing, will the truth of what really happened to him ever be found? ABC 7 Los Angeles and CBS Los Angeles have both documented the parents' presence at key searches, an unusual detail in itself. Jake Haro was even seen alongside detectives during a Moreno Valley search, walking through fields as if cooperating with investigators. Cameras captured the moments. The optics were strange. A man accused of killing his son, combing through the dirt with the very detectives trying to prove his guilt. Yet, despite the resources poured into the search, cadaver dogs sweeping acres of land, drones scanning from above, and volunteers covering ground on foot, nothing was found. No remains, no clothing, no trace of baby Emmanuel. Each day ended the same way it began, with more questions than answers. And now, local media reports suggest the defense may weaponize those very failures against prosecutors. Their argument will be simple but powerful. If this was truly a homicide, where's the evidence? They'll claim the state's case is not only circumstantial but crumbling under its own weight, a narrative built on suspicion and contradiction rather than proof. They'll say Jake and Rebecca Haro are being held on a tragedy investigators cannot solve, and that keeping them locked up without bail violates the most basic principles of justice. If that line of reasoning convinces a judge, it could open the door to a stunning outcome: the release of two parents once accused of murdering their own child. And for a community already torn between grief and outrage, the possibility that the Haros might walk free, not because they were proven innocent, but because the state couldn't prove enough, would send shockwaves far beyond San Bernardino County. In a case as raw, emotional, and fragile as this one, the very idea of release feels almost unthinkable. A baby is gone, his life cut short before it even had the chance to begin. And now, as whispers of a possible release ripple through San Bernardino County, the community is left shaken, asking the question no one ever thought they'd have to ask. What happens if the parent accused of killing him simply walk free? The law, as cold as it is, doesn't bend to emotions. Judges don't weigh grief, heartbreak, or outrage. They weigh evidence. And in the case of baby Emmanuel, the evidence is what prosecutors are most afraid of, because it may not be enough. Think about it. No body, no definitive cause of death, no smoking gun. What prosecutors do have are statements, timelines, inconsistencies, and circumstantial pieces that they say point to murder. But for the defense, those same pieces can be twisted into something else: coincidence, misinterpretation, or even investigative overreach. And here lies the nightmare scenario. In California, if prosecutors can't establish probable cause at a preliminary hearing, a judge can dismiss the case outright, or worse, release the defendants while investigators gather more. That possibility of Jake and Rebecca Haro walking out of custody after months of being branded child killers is almost unthinkable to the people who have followed every heartbreaking update. Outside the courthouse, the tension is palpable. Families who once gathered in candlelight vigils now gather with clenched fists, their eyes darting at the courthouse doors as though waiting for the unimaginable to happen. Reporters crowd the steps, microphones ready, capturing the raw voices of neighbors and strangers alike. One mother, holding her toddler tightly against her chest, tells the cameras, "If they let them go, then what chance does any baby have? If a child can disappear and nobody pays for it, we are all in danger." Social media, once a place of collective prayer and hope for Emmanuel's safe return, has now become a battlefield of anger, doubt, and blame. Hashtags demanding justice for Emmanuel trend alongside scathing criticism of the justice system. Strangers post side-by-side photos of Emmanuel's bright baby smile with mugshots of his parents, writing, "This is a face that matters. Don't let him be forgotten." Even local radio and podcasts buzz with heated debates. Some callers echo the anger, furious at the possibility of release. Others, however reluctantly, admit the uncomfortable truth. Without a body, the law is tricky. You can't just lock someone away forever because you feel they did it. It's a chilling reminder of the divide between what the public demands and what the law requires. Meanwhile, inside the district attorney's office, the weight of the decision looms. Prosecutors know they've taken one of the boldest steps possible, charging both parents with murder without ever finding Emmanuel's body. It was a gamble, one meant to apply pressure, one meant to show the community that justice was being pursued at all costs. But that gamble may now backfire. Legal experts explain that no-body cases aren't impossible. In fact, California has successfully prosecuted them before. But every one of those cases depended on airtight circumstantial evidence, blood evidence, confessions, irrefutable timelines. Hey, prosecutors know their case has cracks, gaps that the defense is ready to exploit. And make no mistake, the defense will be brutal. Already, whispers inside the courthouse suggest that Jake and Rebecca's attorneys plan to highlight the very failures of law enforcement. Cadaver dogs came up empty. Drones and manpower scoured fields and riverbeds, and nothing was recovered. Not a blanket, not a shred of clothing, not a single confirmed piece of physical evidence. The defense will argue, if investigators searched everywhere Emmanuel was supposed to be and still found nothing, how can the state possibly claim a murder occurred? It's a devastating argument because, in the eyes of the law, absence of proof often outweighs suspicion. For the community, the thought of Emmanuel's parents walking free is like reopening a wound that has never had the chance to heal. It feels like betrayal layered on top of tragedy. One vigil organizer told reporters, tears streaming down her face, "We prayed for Emmanuel, we begged for answers, and now we're being told the answers may never come. How do we live with that?" And yet, this is a reality prosecutors face. Without a body, without a clear chain of evidence, the system itself may have no choice but to give Emmanuel's parents their freedom, at least for now. So tonight, as the sun sets over San Bernardino, the community sits with an unbearable question. If the Haros are released, does that mean Emmanuel's story ends here? Or does it mean the fight for justice is only just beginning? Because one truth remains unshakable: Emmanuel is still gone. And until his story is fully told, the shadow of this case will haunt everyone it has touched. Baby Emmanuel never had the chance to grow up, to take his first steps, to say his first words. His entire future, birthdays, laughter, school, and life itself was stolen before it could even begin. And now, as this case shifts from the raw search for truth to the technical world of motions, hearings, and procedures, the haunting question only grows louder. If Emmanuel's parents walk free, will the truth about what happened to him ever be found? Because justice doesn't move on heartbreak. It doesn't bend to the cries of a grieving community. It moves on evidence, timelines, and proof that can stand in a courtroom. And right now, detectives are fighting against silence, a silence that grows deeper every day Emmanuel's body remains missing. For neighbors, for family, and for strangers who lit candles in Emmanuel's name, the thought is unbearable that a child's life can be lost, and yet the very people accused of ending it could step back into the world untouched by punishment. It leaves behind a chilling reality. Without answers, Emmanuel risks being remembered not just as a baby taken too soon, but as a case that slipped through the cracks of justice. So the community waits. They wait for a break in the investigation. They wait for courage in the courtroom. And most of all, they wait for the moment when Emmanuel, even in death, is finally given the dignity of truth. Because until then, this case isn't just about the law. It's about a question that refuses to die. If Emmanuel's parents walk free, will his story ever truly be told?